Welcome back my channel where we explore the most valuable and rare Kennedy half-dollar coins ever discovered. From hidden mint errors to coins worth thousands of dollars, we show you what to look for in your pocket change. Stay tuned and discover if the next Kennedy half-dollar you find could be worth a fortune. Our first coin. The 1983 large date with the P mint mark in circulated scratched fine condition. A coin that collectors believe could reach an incredible auction value of around $120,000 in today's rare coin market. To understand why this coin attracts so much attention, we need to go back to the history of the Kennedy half-dollar itself. The coin was first introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his tragic assassination. The design quickly became one of the most recognizable coins in American history. On the front of the coin, you see the portrait of President Kennedy, while the reverse features the presidential seal with a powerful eagle spreading its wings. For decades, millions of these coins were produced, but not all of them are equal in the eyes of collectors. In 1983, the United States Mint produced Kennedy half-dollars at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. The Philadelphia coins carry the small letter P mint mark under the portrait of Kennedy. More than 34 million of these coins were produced that year, which might make it seem like they are extremely common. In fact, a normal circulated 1983 P Kennedy half-dollar is usually worth only about 50 cents to a few dollars depending on condition. CoinTrackers.com+1. But sometimes the story changes when a coin shows a rare variety or unusual characteristics. Coin collectors often look for things like die varieties, unusual strike features, minting mistakes, or subtle design differences. These details can turn an everyday coin into something incredibly valuable. That is exactly what collectors search for when they examine a 1983 P Kennedy half-dollar with a large date variety and unusual striking features. The large date appearance is one of the details that can attract attention. When the numbers in the date appear thicker, stronger, or more pronounced than normal, collectors often classify it as a large date variety. These differences can happen when the dies used to strike coins are slightly modified or polished during the minting process. Even a tiny variation can create a collectible variety that coin hunters begin searching for across thousands of coins. Now imagine a coin that has survived decades of circulation. This particular coin is described as being in circulated scratched fine condition. That means the coin has been used in everyday transactions. It may have small scratches, wear on the high points of the design, and a slightly dull surface from years of handling. To most people, this kind of coin might look damaged or ordinary. But for collectors, condition is only one part of the story. Sometimes the rarity of the variety itself is what matters most. Another reason collectors watch the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar closely is because the year 1983 is unusual in mint history. During that year, the United States Mint did not release standard mint sets for collectors. Because of this, finding well-preserved examples from 1983 can be surprisingly difficult. Many of the coins entered circulation immediately, which means that high-quality examples are less common than in many other years. Techmeza.org. When collectors believe a coin has a rare die variety, dramatic striking difference, or unusual large date style, they often send the coin to professional grading companies such as PCGS or NGC. These organizations examine the coin under magnification, confirm authenticity, assign a grade, and place the coin in a protective holder. Once a coin is certified, its value in the auction market can increase dramatically because buyers trust the grading and authentication process. The coin we are discussing today is believed to have the large date variety combined with a strong strike and a visible Philadelphia mint mark. Even though the coin is circulated and has scratches, collectors are interested because the variety itself could be extremely scarce. When collectors compete for rare coins at major auctions, prices can rise very quickly. Imagine an auction room filled with collectors, investors, and coin dealers from around the world. The auctioneer holds up the coin and begins the bidding. The room grows quiet as collectors examine the coin projected on a large screen. The bidding begins at a modest price, but within seconds the numbers start climbing. One bidder raises the offer, another counters, and soon the price rises into the thousands of dollars. Rare coins often follow this pattern. When two or more collectors want the same coin for their collections, the value can rise dramatically beyond its metal value or face value. This is how some coins become legendary in the collecting world. The estimated value of $120,000 for a rare example of a 1983 P. Kennedy half-dollar large date variety is based on the idea that an extremely rare variety or unique specimen appears at auction. Although most examples of this coin are worth only small amounts of money, rare varieties can create extraordinary excitement in the coin collecting community. To understand how dramatic this difference is, consider the normal market value of a typical 1983 P. Kennedy half-dollar. In circulated condition, most of these coins sell for around $1 or less, and even high-grade uncirculated examples may only reach a few dozen dollars. APMX +1. This huge gap between ordinary coins and rare varieties is what makes coin collecting so exciting. A simple coin that many people ignore might contain a hidden detail that transforms it into a treasure worth thousands of dollars. Next coin. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar with a large date and no visible mint mark. A coin that in rare circumstances can attract huge attention from collectors and could reach an estimated value of up to $130,000 in the modern rare coin auction market. The story of this coin begins with the history of the Kennedy half-dollar itself. The coin was first introduced in 1964 after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The United States Mint wanted to honor the president with a coin that would circulate across the country, allowing millions of Americans to carry a reminder of his legacy. The design became instantly recognizable. On the front of the coin is the portrait of President Kennedy facing left, designed by sculptor Gilroy Roberts. On the back of the coin is the powerful image of the presidential seal with an eagle holding arrows and an olive branch, designed by Frank Gasparo. CoinTrackers.com. By the early 1970s, the composition of the Kennedy half-dollar had changed. The earlier versions contained silver, but after 1970, the coins were made from a copper nickel-clad metal instead. The outer layers are 75% copper and 25% nickel, while the center core is pure copper. This combination gives the coin its silver-like appearance while keeping production costs lower. Coin Help U +1. In 1972, the United States Mint produced Kennedy half-dollars in several locations, including Denver and Philadelphia. Coins struck in Philadelphia during this period usually had no mint mark at all, which means the coin appears blank beneath Kennedy's portrait where the mint mark would normally appear. That detail often surprises new collectors because modern coins usually show a clear mint mark. For coins produced between 1971 and 1979, however, the absence of a mint mark usually means the coin was made in Philadelphia. Coin Help U +1. More than 153 million Kennedy half-dollars were produced at the Philadelphia Mint in 1972. Because of this large number, the coin is generally considered common in normal circulation. Most circulated examples are worth around their face value of 50 cents or perhaps $1, depending on condition. CoinValueChecker.com +1. But the world of coin collecting is full of surprises. Sometimes a coin becomes valuable not because of its metal content or age, but because of tiny differences in design or production. These differences are known as varieties or mint errors. A small change in the shape of the numbers in the date, a missing designer initial, or an unusual die strike can transform an ordinary coin into something collectors will compete fiercely to own. This is where the idea of the large date variety becomes interesting. On some coins, the numbers in the date appear thicker, taller, or more pronounced than normal. When collectors notice that the numbers look noticeably larger than the standard design, they often refer to it as a large date variety. These differences can happen when dies are modified, polished, or replaced during the minting process. Now imagine finding a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar with a large date style and no mint mark, a coin that has spent years in circulation. The coin might show scratches across the surface. The details of Kennedy's hair may be worn down from decades of use. The eagle on the reverse might look slightly faded. In coin grading terms, this type of coin could fall into what collectors call a circulated or fine condition. To most people, this kind of coin might look damaged or ordinary. Many people would simply spend it without thinking twice. But experienced collectors know that even a worn coin can still be rare if it contains a special variety. One of the things collectors often examine on Kennedy half dollars is the small FG initials on the reverse side of the coin. These initials represent the designer Frank Gasparo. On some rare coins, the initials can appear weak or even missing because the mint polished the dies too aggressively. This type of error has become highly collectible among Kennedy half-dollar enthusiasts. Coins value. When collectors search through boxes of half dollars from banks or old collections, they are often looking for these tiny details. A missing initial, an unusual strike, or a date that looks slightly different can be enough to spark excitement. Next coin. The 1992 Kennedy half dollar, a coin that many people have seen but very few people have ever looked at closely. At first glance, it appears to be a simple 50-cent coin, something that might sit in a drawer, a jar of spare change, or even pass through someone's hands without any attention at all. But sometimes a small detail can turn an ordinary coin into something collectors search for around the world. Today, we are exploring a fascinating example of the 1992 Kennedy half dollar with a large date and a P mint mark. A coin that even in circulated, scratched, and worn condition has drawn attention in the rare coin market, with a possible auction value that collectors estimate could reach as high as $50,000. To understand why this coin is interesting, we first need to look at the story behind the Kennedy half dollar series. The coin was first introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his tragic assassination in 1963. The United States Mint moved quickly to create a design that would remember the president and allow millions of Americans to carry that tribute in their everyday lives. The front of the coin shows the portrait of President Kennedy facing left, designed by sculptor Gilroy Roberts. The reverse side shows the presidential seal with a strong eagle spreading its wings while holding arrows and an olive branch, designed by Frank Gasparo. Over the years, the Kennedy half dollar went through several changes in metal composition and production numbers. The earliest coins from 1964 were made with 90% silver. Later versions used 40% silver for a short time before the mint eventually switched to a copper-nickel-clad metal that is still used today. By the time 1992 arrived, the coins being produced for circulation were made with outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a core of pure copper. This metal combination gives the coin its bright silver-like color while keeping production costs lower. In 1992, the United States Mint produced Kennedy half dollars at multiple facilities, including the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint carry a small P mint mark. If you look carefully at the front of the coin, just below the portrait of Kennedy and above the date, you will find the tiny letter P that identifies the coin as being produced in Philadelphia. That small detail may look insignificant, but collectors often use mint marks to identify where and how coins were made. Millions of Kennedy half dollars were produced in 1992. Because of this large number, most examples are very common and usually worth only their face value of 50 cents. Many of these coins never circulated widely because half dollars are not used as frequently in everyday transactions as quarters or dimes. As a result, people often overlook them entirely. But coin collectors know that rarity is not always about how many coins were produced. Sometimes the most valuable coins are the ones with unusual details that appeared during the minting process. These details might include die varieties, unusual date styles, missing design elements, or striking errors. One of the details collectors sometimes examine is the size and style of the numbers in the date. On certain coins, the numbers appear thicker or larger than normal. When this happens, collectors often refer to it as a large date variety. This type of difference can occur when the dies used to strike coins are modified, replaced, or slightly altered during production. Even a small difference in the date style can create a new variety that collectors begin searching for. Imagine a collector carefully studying a group of Kennedy half dollars from the early 1990s. Most of the coins look identical at first glance. But suddenly, one coin stands out. The numbers in the date appear slightly larger and bolder. The mint mark beneath the portrait is clear. The coin shows signs of heavy circulation with scratches and wear, but the unusual appearance of the date makes the collector curious. This is where the excitement of coin collecting begins. Even though the coin may be worn and scratched from years of use, collectors know that condition is only one factor that determines value. In many cases, rarity matters far more than appearance. A coin with an unusual variety can still be valuable even if it has circulated for decades. The 1992 Kennedy half dollar with a large date and P mint mark is one of those coins that collectors sometimes watch closely. If a rare die variety or unusual striking characteristic appears on a coin like this, it can attract strong interest from collectors and investors. When collectors believe they have found a rare coin, they often send it to professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC. These organizations specialize in examining coins under powerful magnification. Experts study the surfaces, the design details, the metal composition, and the possible varieties of the coin. Once the coin is authenticated, it receives a grade that describes its condition and is sealed inside a protective holder. Certification is extremely important in the rare coin market. Buyers at auctions want to know that the coin they are purchasing has been verified by experts. A certified coin is much easier to sell and often commands a much higher price. Now imagine that a rare variety of the 1992 Kennedy half dollar large date with P mint mark appears at a major coin auction. Even though the coin shows scratches and heavy circulation, experts confirm that it is a rare variety that very few collectors have ever seen. The auction room becomes quiet as the coin is displayed. Collectors watch carefully while the auctioneer begins the bidding. The starting price may begin at a modest level, but within seconds, collectors begin raising their offers. One bidder lifts the price higher. Another collector counters. Soon the bidding rises into the thousands of dollars. The excitement in the room grows as collectors realize they are competing for a coin that may be extremely rare. Rare coin auctions can move very quickly when collectors want the same coin. Prices climb rapidly as each bidder tries to secure the piece for their collection. In situations where a coin is believed to be exceptionally rare or possibly unique, the value can rise far beyond normal expectations. Next coin. The 1983 Kennedy half dollar with a P mint mark and what collectors often describe as a large date appearance. At first glance, this coin may look ordinary. It is only a 50-cent coin, something many people ignore or leave sitting in jars of loose change. But sometimes a small detail can transform a simple coin into something extremely valuable. Today, we are exploring a circulated example with scratches and wear in fine condition that collectors believe could reach an incredible auction value of around $120,000 under the right circumstances in the rare coin market. To understand why this coin attracts attention, we need to look back at the story of the Kennedy half dollar. The coin was first introduced in 1964, shortly after the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. The United States Mint wanted to honor the president with a coin that would circulate across the country, allowing Americans to remember him every day. The design quickly became one of the most recognizable coins in American history. On the front of the coin, you see the left-facing portrait of President Kennedy. The design was created by sculptor Gilroy Roberts, who captured the president's profile with strong details in the hair and facial features. The reverse side of the coin was designed by Frank Gasparo and shows the presidential seal. At the center is a powerful eagle with wings spread wide, holding arrows in one claw and an olive branch in the other, representing strength and peace. Around the eagle are stars that symbolize the states of the United States. During the early years, the Kennedy half dollar contained silver, but by the 1970s, the composition changed. The rising price of silver made it too expensive to continue using the metal in circulation coins. By the time the 1983 Kennedy half dollar was produced, the coin was made from a copper-nickel-clad composition. The outer layers are 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a core made of pure copper. This structure gives the coin a silver-like appearance while maintaining durability for circulation. In 1983, the United States Mint produced Kennedy half dollars primarily at two facilities, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. The Philadelphia coins carry a small letter P mint mark located on the front of the coin beneath Kennedy's portrait and above the date. That tiny letter is extremely important to collectors because it identifies where the coin was produced. Millions of Kennedy half dollars were minted in 1983. Because of this large production number, most of these coins are very common. A typical circulated 1983 P Kennedy half dollar is usually worth only its face value or slightly more. Many people who see one might never imagine it could ever be worth anything significant. However, the world of coin collecting is filled with surprises. Sometimes coins become valuable because of small differences that appear during the minting process. These differences can include die varieties, unusual strike characteristics, doubled details, or changes in the appearance of the date. One of the interesting features collectors sometimes notice on coins is what they call a large date style. In this case, the numbers in the date appear thicker, taller, or more pronounced than the standard design. This can happen when the dies used to strike coins are modified or replaced during production. Even a tiny change in the design can create a collectible variety. Imagine a collector examining a group of Kennedy half-dollars from the early 1980s. Most of the coins look identical. They show the same portrait, the same eagle, and the same general design. But one coin suddenly stands out. The numbers in the date look slightly larger and bolder than the others. The P mint mark beneath the portrait is clear. Even though the coin has scratches from years of circulation, the unusual appearance of the date makes the collector curious. This is the moment when a simple coin begins to attract serious attention. The particular coin we are discussing today is described as being in circulated scratched fine condition. That means the coin has been used in everyday transactions for years. It may show visible scratches across the surface, and the highest parts of the design, such as Kennedy's hair or the eagle's feathers, may appear worn down. The coin might not shine like a brand new example, but it still retains enough detail to clearly identify the design. Many people assume that worn coins cannot be valuable, but in the world of rare coins that is not always true. If a coin has an extremely rare variety or unique feature, collectors may still compete to own it even if the condition is far from perfect. Collectors searching for rare Kennedy half-dollars usually examine several important areas. They study the date carefully to see whether the numbers appear larger or shaped differently. They check the mint mark beneath Kennedy's portrait to confirm whether the coin was struck in Philadelphia or another mint. They also inspect the reverse side of the coin for small details, such as the initials FG under the eagle's left leg, which represent the designer Frank Gasparo. Sometimes the mint polished the dies so heavily that these initials appear weak or partially missing, creating another collectible variety. Details like these are exactly what experienced collectors look for when studying coins. When someone believes they have found a rare coin, the next step is usually to send it to a professional grading service. Organizations such as PCGS or NGC specialize in examining coins under high magnification. Experts analyze the surfaces, the strike, the metal composition, and the possible varieties of the coin. Once the coin is authenticated and graded, it is sealed inside a protective holder that preserves its condition. This certification gives collectors confidence when buying or selling the coin, especially in major auctions where rare coins can sell for huge amounts of money. Next coin, the 1996 Kennedy half-dollar with a P mint mark and what collectors sometimes describe as a large date appearance. At first glance, this coin may look like nothing special. It is only a 50-cent coin, something many people rarely even use anymore. You might find one sitting quietly in a jar of coins, hidden inside an old collection, or forgotten in a drawer for years. But sometimes the smallest detail on a coin can turn it from a simple piece of pocket change into something collectors around the world are eager to own. Today, we are looking at a circulated example with scratches and wear in fine condition that, under rare circumstances in the auction market, could reach an estimated value of $90,000. To understand why a coin like this could attract such attention, it helps to know the story behind the Kennedy half-dollar itself. The coin was first introduced in 1964 following the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. The United States Mint decided to honor the president by placing his portrait on the half-dollar coin, allowing millions of Americans to carry a reminder of his legacy in their daily lives. The design was completed quickly, but it became one of the most recognizable coins in American history. On the front of the coin, you see the portrait of President Kennedy facing left. The design was created by Gilroy Roberts, who captured the president's profile with detailed hair and sharp facial features. The reverse side of the coin features the presidential seal designed by Frank Gasparo. In the center is a powerful eagle with its wings spread wide. In one claw, the eagle holds arrows symbolizing strength and readiness to defend the nation. and in the other claw it holds an olive branch representing peace. Surrounding the eagle are stars representing the states of the United States. Over the decades, the Kennedy half-dollar has gone through several changes in its metal composition. The earliest coins produced in 1964 were made from 90% silver. Later versions contained 40% silver, but by the 1970s, the mint transitioned to a copper-nickel-clad composition. By 1996, the circulating Kennedy half-dollars were made with outer layers consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a core of pure copper. This metal structure gives the coin its bright silver color while remaining durable enough for circulation. In 1996, the United States Mint produced Kennedy half-dollars at several locations, including the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins produced at the Philadelphia Mint carry a small letter P mint mark. If you look carefully at the front of the coin beneath Kennedy's portrait and above the date, you can see this tiny letter identifying where the coin was struck. Millions of Kennedy half-dollars were produced during that year, and because of this large mintage, most 1996 coins are very common. Many people rarely use half-dollars in everyday transactions, so large numbers of them end up stored in banks or collections rather than circulating widely. A normal circulated 1996 P Kennedy half-dollar is usually worth its face value of 50 cents or perhaps a small premium depending on condition. However, coin collecting often focuses on the tiny differences that appear during the minting process. Even when millions of coins are produced, a small number may contain unusual characteristics that make them special to collectors. These differences can include striking errors, doubled details, die cracks, missing design elements, or variations in the appearance of the date. One feature collectors sometimes look for is what they call a large date variety. On certain coins, the numbers in the date appear thicker, taller, or slightly larger than the standard design. These changes can occur when dies used in the minting process are replaced, modified, or polished during production. Even a small difference in the shape of the numbers can create a noticeable variety. Imagine a collector carefully studying several Kennedy half-dollars from the 1990s. At first, they all appear the same. The portrait looks identical, the eagle design matches perfectly, and the dates seem normal. But then one coin stands out. The numbers in the date appear bolder and larger than the others. The P mint mark beneath the portrait is clear, and the coin shows evidence of circulation with light scratches across the surface. Although the coin is not in perfect condition, the unusual appearance of the date attracts attention. Experienced collectors know that even worn coins can be valuable if they represent a rare variety. The coin we are discussing today is described as being in circulated scratched fine condition. This means the coin has spent years moving through everyday transactions. The highest points of the design may show wear, especially in Kennedy's hair and on the eagle's feathers on the reverse side. Small scratches or marks may appear across the surface from years of handling. Despite this wear, the main design elements remain visible and recognizable. In the rare coin market, condition is important, but rarity often matters even more. If a coin is believed to represent a rare die variety or unusual striking characteristic, collectors may still compete to obtain it even when it shows signs of heavy use. Another detail collectors often examine on Kennedy half-dollars is the small set of initials located on the reverse side beneath the eagle's left leg. The letters FG stand for Frank Gasparo, the designer of the reverse. On some coins, these initials appear faint or partially missing because of heavy die polishing during production. These kinds of details can create additional varieties that collectors search for. When someone believes they have discovered a rare coin, the next step is usually professional authentication. Companies such as PCGS and NGC specialize in grading and verifying coins. Experts examine the coin under magnification, confirm that it is genuine, and assign it a grade based on its condition. The coin is then sealed inside a protective holder that preserves it and provides collectors with confidence when buying or selling it.